talking about India, we have to talk about the cinema, something that I don't know very much about cinema. I know nothing, but what I know about the Indian cinema is that it's very popular. I see long queues, I see a lot of people going to the cinemas. It seems that the culture, the context in India and the cinema that goes together, Indian culture, Indian cinema as a sort of a symbiosis, very popular, yes, and I can say they are very long, the films. They produce hundreds of films, I don't know how many. They are long films. The films are produced in Hindi, which is spoken by 400 million people in India. That is one out of three. The films are produced in Hindi and translated in a dozen of other languages. So the actors in the film must be made taking into account that it will be translated for, adapted for various cultures, various languages. These Indian films are very done. I think it's very difficult to watch one. I don't think I have watched one in its entirety. It's not in our culture at all. It reveals their culture. There's more violence in the Indian movie, more actions. Most are sort of melodramatic. Some have musicals inside the film. Some parts of the film will be singing. There's comedy, adventure film, police film, a bit of romance mixed with other things. It seems that the themes are always the same, more or less the same themes. And the Indians, they react to the film noisily. They will whistle, hiss, cheers, whatever make noise. Yes, agree or disagree with the film. Something we don't have in the West. Yeah, some music I was saying is incorporated into films, and some dances also incorporated into Indian cinema. I cannot qualify. I don't know much about music, Indian music, except the sitar. Of course, you will see a few photos. Also, must not. Impossible to talk about India without mentioning the sitar, such a nice musical instrument, such a beautiful. It has some religious connotations. You will see one store selling sitars and one guy playing sitars sitting on the floor on the photo. What I can say about the cinema to end on cinema is that perhaps censorship is quite different than in the West. Islamic authorities as regard sex, eroticism, clothing, and this kind of thing, Islamic authorities will be quite severe, I believe. So that kind of censorship that we will not have in the West. Talk about some festival. I mentioned one big festival, Hamel. I could add the festival in Ganesh in Bombay, which is kind of quite popular. There is the Harvest Festival also. But that's all I remember for now. Also, impossible to talk about India without mentioning the tuk-tuk. They started in India, and now there are millions on the road in the developing world, including in Africa. They are very noisy, they're very polluting, but they are very efficient. They are very cheap. They are also energy efficient. They are available all the time. They are plenty waiting for passengers. They are very small, but they can pack, I don't know how many passengers, 7, 8 passengers easily. There are many models you will see on the photos. There are many models of tuk-tuk, mini tuk-tuk, some a little bit macro tuk-tuk, some a little bit bigger. Some scam in security and scam, I think I have mentioned one or two. That's about all. Security is very good, and you just have to watch out. Mostly in big cities, big city centers where tourists hang out. You can have some kind of scammers, thieves. That can happen. A few words on the climate, but maybe. There's a great variety of climate in India, from the north, so they are in the snow and the Himalaya, right down to the south, so it is always very humid and very, very hot. So there's a couple of chain of mountains that define one going north-south on the west coast. That defines mostly the climate. There are plains, there are plateaus, and there are some tropical forests. You will see, I'll put a few pictures of big trees with the hanging branches down to the floor. So it's quite surprising to see these big trees because India has a tropical climate, mostly in the south. Semi-arid desert in Rajasthan and other places. Yes, very, very desertic areas. The monsoon, that's something that you can follow for travelers. You can follow on the internet. There is forecast every day. And you can watch in a dynamic way going backward and then forward in terms of history and forecast. And it's possible to travel to avoid much of the monsoon by just avoiding some places that are more exposed to bad weather. And this is what I was doing. I was able to avoid the monsoon because there is frequent flooding of cities and the railways are flooded, so there are a lot of problems. So on the internet regarding the monsoon, they give warnings. And India, I have talked a bit about the economy. Let me complete by saying that India does not export very much. It has a few export precious stones, some petroleum product that they refine and they export. Otherwise, they import most of their crude oil. They export some machineries, some iron. They are a big producer of iron and steel. They export some chemicals also. There are international companies operating there. They export cars and trucks, Tata trucks, and cars and 4x4 that we find all over Africa and other developing countries. They export clothes traditionally. They've been doing it for a long time. They have to compete with Bangladesh, which is where the salaries and wages are lower. But they have some very large companies. I just mentioned Tata. I could have mentioned Reliance, that is a very large conglomerate also in India. They import all sort of things. Gold is very much liked in India. You see jewelry in every small place, every village, every town. There's a lot of gold jewelry, so much that the government had to restrict the import of gold. The girls, they spend a tremendous amount of money on gold. They go shopping, they go window shopping, they really like gold. They also import many other things like fertilizers and so on. Their major suppliers are still the Soviet Union. They had for a long time. They were more or less aligned with Russia. They had 5 years. They had 5-year plan, and they bought their military equipment, their planes, and I think they have also one submarine, and other things from the Soviet Union. So they're quite linked with the Soviet Union. For many years, the U.S. have tried to get its place there, but that's been it's been a bit difficult. The Indian economy started to be liberalized in the beginning of the 90s, so about 10 years after China. It's the fourth largest agricultural producer in India, and it has a food surplus. I think I mentioned in another video, and a food trade surplus. So in addition of having surplus, they trade food and they have a surplus there as well. Population in India is still very much rural. You will see some rice paddy. It's always a very beautiful sight to see the woman planting the paddies and planting the rice and working in the field. You will see many photos. India, in addition to rice that you will see, I think rice is half agricultural land is on rice. There's also millet, and they also export meat. They export milk and cashew, coconut, tea. Started with the English. They export banana, pepper, of course, and spices. They are the second largest producer of rice in the world, probably after China. They produce a lot of rubber also. The farmers, the farmers are very small, about just 1 hectare of land. That is very small, and the population is growing. So there's a lot of pressure on the land. Also, the land, when you travel around India, you see the vast is almost infinite, it's immense. India also a large producer of iron and steel and coal and textile, also dating from the English colonizations toward the end, at least. India, they drive the left, unlike in the West. Big car production you see in India. I have seen it for many decades. Suzuki has been the largest one. Produce not only small cars but many other things, motorcycles and buses and trucks. And Hyundai is very strong. Toyota and Honda are very marginal. So it's Suzuki and Hyundai that are capturing most of the foreign car market in India. What else could I talk about? Prostitutions, there are hardly any that I have seen. Now it was so visible and so important 40 years ago. Now it seems that at least it's less obvious. Drugs like marijuana is allowed or tolerated in some places, like in the state of Orissa, where the government himself sell some, but there are very few customers. It's not popular at all. It's very marginal. You will see many Buddha statues, big statues, some smaller, some are in gold. These have been taken in the state of Uttar Pradesh. The photos of the Buddhas, the statues of the Buddha, are taken mostly in two states, in the state of Bihar, where he meditated under the tree and so on. So in that state, even in its cavern, where it stayed many years, many Buddha statues over there, and also in museum in Uttar Pradesh, where also he spread his teaching for many years. He died, he was past 80 years old, he was 81 years old. You will, talking about the Buddha, you will notice that the Buddha is represented in different positions, either standing, sitting, or lying down. You will see standing at Buddha, one place in Bihar state. You will see huge statues, about 100 meters of a sitting Buddha. Well, on each side there are standing Buddhas, and you will notice everywhere, whether he's standing, sitting, or lying down, his hands are in different, point to different positions, and it's for those that are more familiar with Buddhism, which I am not at all. But as regard the hands, for having done a bit of meditation and this like this, what do you do? What do you do with your hands? So when he is standing, there is 7 typical positions of the hand that is observable in these statues. At that place, at Bodhisattva, at this place. So there is one for each day of the week. On Sunday, he is standing with arms crossed in front of the waist, right hand covering the left hand. It's almost visible on some, at least on one photo, you will see a row of these statues. On Monday, he stands with his right hand raised to shoulder height, with palm and fingers extended. Tuesday, he's lying on her right side, head resting on his arm. Wednesday, holding arms in his arms, an arm bow, so a charity, extending a hand of charity. Thursday is in the lotus position, the most popular, most familiar position of the Buddha. But the hands also in this position, position of each hand can vary tremendously. And each position represents something, a message. So right hand and left hand, they can cross, they can be superimposed, they can be separated, and the fingers in each hand also can have different positions. So if you get into Buddhism, all this are symbolic of the teaching of Buddha. Transportation, what could I add? Many places you can rent bicycle in towns, not so dangerous. I've done it so often. Can also rent motorbike in India, more dangerous. And once I got completely lost. I was in the middle of nowhere. So in addition to so riding the bicycle, there's the place that we don't know.